The topic that I would like to cover today is fears and insecurities. You know, all people have fears and insecurities. If you Google the top fears and insecurities that people have, you will probably get the results of speaking in public, fear of failing, fear of dying. You know, there are many phobias and fears and insecurities out there. But today I want to cover at least the top three that I can relate to, and probably you can relate to as well. You know, the first one is the fear of speaking in public. You know, I can tell you, I struggled with fears and insecurities very, very early in life. You know, I remember probably at the age of 8, you know, I got selected by my teacher to deliver a poem. You know, I got selected to recite this poem, and, you know, I had no problem learning it and practicing. But when the day came for me to do the presentation, you know, I was terrified. I did not know what was happening to me. I did not know that I had a fear of speaking in public until the very morning when I was supposed to make my presentation. And, you know, as most children will do, you know, we are clever. And as a clever child, you know, I pretended to be sick. And I pretended that I wasn't feeling well and that I could not go to school. And, you know, I thank God for my mom and my teacher. You know, they technically convinced me and put, you know, enough trust and confidence in me that I was able to actually go and make my presentation. And, you know, needless to say, you know, it probably came out horrible. You know, it was probably not the best poem or the best delivery by any stretch of the imagination. But that experience, you know, is something that I never forgot. And at the moment, of course, I did not know that one day, you know, I was going to technically be a public speaker of sorts. You know, even to this day, you know, I have done many things that involve, you know, addressing people, whether it's training a group or teaching a Bible study or preaching a sermon or creating content on the internet. You know, this is what I do. This is who I am. And let me let you in a bit of a secret. You know, I have always struggled with the fear of speaking in public. So the things that I want to leave you with today, and I want to cover at least, or leave you with at least 2 pieces of advice. And the first one is fight and face your fears and insecurities as soon as possible. You know, for many people, we can waste years and even decades of life, you know, just knowing that we have a fear. Let's say that it is the fear of speaking in public. You know, that fear doesn't necessarily imply that you have a microphone and that you have a stage. You know, it could be as something as simple as participating in class if you're in school, or participating in a parents' meeting, or, you know, maybe approaching a group of strangers and engaging in a conversation with them. You know, that can be a form of a fear of speaking in public. And, you know, the top fears that people have, the fear of speaking in public, the fear of failing, the fear of dying. You know, at the end, in my personal experience, you know, it comes down to simply the fear of failing. And I have missed out on many things because of that fear. You know, what if I mess up? What if I embarrass myself? So many times, you know, we miss out on life and opportunities because we believe that someone else can do a better job, or because we believe that we are not as good as the other person. And in the end, we sabotage our lives. We allow for the fears and for the insecurities to dictate, what's going to be of our lives. So today I want to challenge that. And I want you to, be not only aware of the fears that you have, but for you to face the challenge. Sometimes you can overcome a fear or an insecurity, but in many other instances, perhaps you're just simply going to manage that fear or insecurity. I speak and I address people and I do things, create content that is, being exposed literally to the world. And the content that I create, is meant to inspire, it's meant to help other people. But let me tell you, the content that I create is actually helping me in the first place. Right now, I am facing and I am fighting and struggling with the fear of speaking in public, the fear of failing. What if no one watches the content that I create? What if, I just fail and this never picks up, this never takes off? Those are fears, but I will not miss out on life's opportunities because of the fear or because of the insecurity. To go back to the example of the experience that I had as a child, speaking in public. Not only I pretended to be sick, but to send a message or to teach them a lesson, I think I performed horribly with the poem that I was supposed to recite. Yes, I managed and I did it, but it was half-hearted and it was just not the best poem or the best delivery of a poem that you ever heard. And to me, that was going to be the end of the story. But who knew that eventually, years later, I will be faced with opportunities to speak in public. Eventually, I became a bivocational minister. I had my 9-to-5 job, but I was also, volunteering, to teach Bible study or to preach a sermon or to host a meeting or a presentation, an event, and so on. So I can honestly tell you there are times when it feels that I have overcome the fear of speaking in public, but then I'm battling the fear of failing. I can tell you that I have a perfectionist spirit or a perfectionist tendency. I have done a lot of research and I have done a lot of preparation, but the fear of, what if I mess up or what if this doesn't work out? What if I fail and I just embarrass myself? That has stopped me at times from, taking opportunities and from, just simply living life to the fullest. So my advice for you is face your fears as soon as possible. Don't let that fear stop you or rob you of life experiences another day, let alone another year or another decade. So face your fears, face your insecurities. And the second thing that I want to tell you, and that I mentioned, just briefly, for some of us, those fears and those insecurities are a daily battle. So, some people manage to conquer and overcome the fears. But for some reasons, some other people, we just struggle and we just manage the fear. But regardless, the thing is, whether you overcome the fear or you simply manage the fear, you have to push forward. The content that I create is to encourage you, to inspire you, in spite of the challenges, in spite of the fears and insecurities that I have, that you have. We must press on. We must, take those opportunities that life presents. There are times when you just don't know, what's going to be the outcome. And you think, well, maybe this is just not for me. But many times we're just hiding behind the fears and the insecurities. Many times we just assume that we are not the right person, or that we don't have the right qualifications. So I want to challenge that through this content today. And I want to give you that little push, just like my mom and my teacher when I was around, 8 years old. And they will not take a no for an answer. They will not fall for my little show of, I'm sick, I can't go to school today. And the whole thing is, I didn't want to participate in that program because I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of, and even today, sometimes those fears kind of, want to come back, and, having that fear of, what are people going to say? What are people going to think? And that can stop you, and that can rob you of your destiny. That can rob you of the life journey that you are supposed to live, of the experiences that you are supposed to enjoy in this life. So what fears and insecurities do you have? Are you afraid of speaking in public? Are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of dying? And on that topic of being afraid of dying, I try to live my life like there is a God, like I have to give an account of my life at one point. And, that works for me. I do not intend on imposing my faith and my beliefs on you, but I am sharing what works with me. And yes, I do not want to die. I have lived up to this point, or the time of this recording, 50 years of life. So in average, I probably have used or lived about a little over half of the lifespan that we have at this point. So I know that I am perhaps closer to that point, of dying, but I refuse to live in fear. Sometimes I do not live life the best way, or I do not make the best or the right choices. But what I want to tell you is, let's use the fears that we have as fuel, as motivation. If you have a fear or an insecurity, instead of letting the fear, stopping you and robbing you from the life that God wants you to have, how about we use that fear? So by me sitting in front of this camera and addressing you and delivering this content, yes, I'm helping, hopefully. And if I am, please let me know in the comments below. But let me tell you, it is helping me. I'm overcoming a fear. I'm overcoming an insecurity. I do not have the best lighting and the best camera or the best, studio for this channel and for the content that I create. But I am determined. I'm going to do what I can with the things that I have. Yes, I cannot compete. And yes, I might not win an award, for the content that I create. But I am working, I am facing my challenges, I am facing my insecurities. And I just want to give you that as an incentive or as motivation. So use your fears, use your insecurities. Don't let them use you. If you're going to have fears, if you're going to have insecurities in your life, you might as well, do something with that. Do something with that fear. Do something with that insecurity in spite. Perhaps you're not expected to do great in life. Perhaps not too many people believe in you. Perhaps you don't believe in yourself. And you have these fears. Fear of, you name it, speaking in public, failing, dying, making a fool of yourself. So I would challenge you, do something today that will fight a fear or an insecurity that you have. And trust me, the feeling of, once you get going, at times I have to manage that fear of speaking in public. There are times when I just feel very insecure, very inadequate, to be that person that gets on that stage and takes a microphone. But the moment, that I start and I get going, that fear starts to disappear. And eventually that fear is conquered. So sometimes your fear is conquered, once and for all. And sometimes you just have to struggle. You just have to fight. You just have to overcome it time and again. Regardless, every person is different. Every fear is different. Every circumstance or situation is unique. But the point being, don't wait. Don't waste your life. Don't get paralyzed by that fear of failing. You can have that perfectionist tendency like I have myself and do all the prepping and do all the work and do everything, but the fear of failing prevents you from really, moving forward, really doing what you're supposed to do. So, my friend and my brother, I hope that you're doing good, and I hope that I'm not going to even question if you have a fear or an insecurity. I am positive that you have at least one fear or one insecurity, something that bothers you, something that kind of stops you and prevents you, from being the best person or living the best life that you can live and being all that you could be. So, what do? Are you gonna let the fear and the insecurity win, or are you going to win? Use your fears. Use your insecurities. Let that be a motivation. Let that be a fuel to the fire of your life. So I want to just encourage you today with this, short and simple video, but just to tell you, you're not alone. You're not alone, my brother. I wasted many years of my life, just thinking, what are people going to say? Giving myself an endless list of reasons why I'm not the right person, why I don't have the best equipment or whatever. And I wasted precious time. Sometimes we think, what's the worst that can happen? And we kind of let that stop us from doing something. So I want to challenge you today and just think of the possibilities. Think of the best outcome, the best that could happen when you face your fear, when you face your insecurity. So let me know in the comments below. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your life story, the fears, how you manage, how you overcome. And just let's encourage one another in this platform. I know that we cannot interact in any other way, and I know there are limitations, but you can write or type something short and encouraging and just encourage other people that might be facing a difficult time, due to a fear or an insecurity. So, my friend, I leave you with this, and I will catch you again in the next video. Until then, my friend, fight those fears and insecurities.